Thank you. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I'm super excited to chat with you. And I want to, before we kick off this evening of excitement, I want to start with a quick story of how I met Mr. Adams. It was the end of December 2019. And, I'm going to tell this story, and I'm also going to thank you because I don't know if you know, but you had a major impact on me that evening. So I'm excited. I get the chance to finally thank you. So it was December 2019. Our mutual friend, Suzanne Ventura of the Regen Resource Network and Greening for Life, hosted a wonderful dinner. And I had just finished the draft of my second book, the Cannabis Business Book. And my editor had just gotten back to me and he said, Mike, it's great, but your ending just doesn't have that oomph. You need something stronger. And I was like, oh man, like the deadline's coming up. I got to get this thing done. I was kind of worried. I was worried about it. And then I went to this dinner where I met Mr. Adams, the Brooklyn Borough President, and you told this story. You shared this story with this quote about, thinking that you were buried and in fact that you were planted. And I was like, there it is. I'm stealing that. That's gonna close my book. And it pulled the end of my book together beautifully. And so I have to thank you for that. I don't know if you realized at the time, but that was a major, major assist for me. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I got that from my mom, by the way.
Amazing. There you go. There's an old saying, good artists borrow and great artists steal. So I'm trying to be great. So that's why I took that line. So anyway, I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for taking some time to be here tonight with the High NY community. Before I kick it off to you, I just want to say to our guests, to our audience, that this is a pivotal election. This is a huge turning point for New York City. And I personally, as a lifelong New Yorker, I'm a Brooklyn boy since age 1 when my family immigrated from the former Soviet Union on 4/20. So, to me, this is my destiny to be doing this cannabis work. And the fact that it brought me, face to face with the Brooklyn Borough President, I know it's my destiny. But anyway, I'm personally concerned about our city, and we have a huge recovery effort and rebuilding, and I think leadership makes a huge difference. And so I want to hear from you, and please, Mr. Borough President, feel free to introduce yourself and share some of your background. But I want to know from you, why are you the right man for the job?
Thank you so much. And many people would say to you that it's about competency, but I don't believe it's only competency. I think it's about character. We should look over the lives of people and ask, what was your journey like? This has been a 24-year journey for me. And when I look over my life of what I had to endure to get to the point of being the Borough President of Brooklyn, it has shaped the vision that I believe so many New Yorkers are experiencing. When you talk about low salary employees, I know what that's like. I was a dishwasher as a child to help my mom pay the mortgage in our home. When you talk about struggling to get through school, I worked in a mailroom in a CPA firm, and I went to school at night, 2 classes at a time, to obtain my associates, my bachelor's, and then my master's. I know what homelessness is like, living on the verge of homelessness. They used to call my siblings and me the glad bag children, because we used to carry a glad bag full of clothing to school every day. My mom thought we were going to be thrown out by the marshals, so she would have a change of clothing in the glad bags that we carried, so we will actually not be embarrassed by not having a change of clothing. And even law enforcement. I was arrested and beat by police officers when I was a child. My brother and I were badly beaten. But instead of saying, woe is me, I said, why not me? I turned my pain into purpose. And civil rights leaders asked me to go into the police department and fight for reform and safety. And I did that. And I moved up through the ranks and spent 22 years trying to make our police agencies have a more symbiotic, build trust between our communities. And so I have lived the life that people are living now. And I've dedicated my life to turn around our city. And if we get it right in America, we're going to, in New York, I should say, we're going to get it right across America. And let me conclude with this, which is so important. Our city is dysfunctional, and cities across America, they are dysfunctional. We create crises. Cities are made up of agencies. And if those agencies are not aligned with one common mission to help the fellow citizens, it doesn't matter how much money you spend. And that's what we do in New York. One agency creates a crisis, another agency responds to the crisis that was created. If you just look at the Department of Education, it creates three crises: our criminal justice crisis, our health crisis, and our education crisis. How do you have 65% of Black children not meeting proficiency every year in the Department of Education, and we're spending almost $30 billion? If you don't educate, you will incarcerate. 30% of the children at Rikers Island are dyslexic. Almost 55% have learning disabilities. 80% of the men and women there don't have a high school diploma or equivalency diploma. We are putting people on a pathway of not enjoying what it is to be in this great city and great country. And each agency that you point to, I can show you how they're creating a crisis for another agency. Some of the people who are part of your family out there, they're business owners. You have the small business services fighting to get businesses open, but then you have the Department of Builders that's doing everything possible to keep businesses closed. Agency by agency in real crisis with each other. Those inefficiencies are leading to the inequities and in some cases the injustices. That is why I want to be mayor, because I witnessed how city agencies failed me as a child. And I know there's an Eric Adams out there somewhere that wants a career, and an Erica that wants to live in a safe city, that I'm going to provide the safe cities for New Yorkers, no matter what block you're on, no matter what language you speak, no matter what culture you are about. This is going to be one New York, and it's going to be a New York where we can see the benefits of being here, and we're going to raise healthy children and families.
Amen. I love that. Thank you for that. I want to ask a quick follow-up, and then I'm going to introduce some of my dear friends and colleagues from the cannabis community to ask you some questions. But I want to know, because I am, after all, you're the Brooklyn Borough President, and I'm the cannabis ambassador of New York, or aspiring cannabis ambassador. And so I have to ask, what is one thing that you want specifically the cannabis community to know about Eric Adams?
Number one, as a child, I used to grow some of the best weed on the block, you know, and I was a young entrepreneur in that area, and I'll leave it like that.
Wow, that's amazing. We could end the call now. You just earned my vote 10 times over, and I love that. And in fact, I'm gonna just real quick share in the chat, if you feel inspired today to contribute to Mr. Adams' campaign for mayor, you know, the city is matching funds 9-1 in some cases. So please don't be shy. The link is in the chat. Feel free to support the candidate that I believe is destined to be the next mayor of New York City. But, you know, that's just one man's opinion.
And the city matches 8-1, you know,
8-1.
But it's still good, you know. A $100 contribution, we get $800. A $50 contribution, we get $400. So we have to raise another $1 million out of the almost 8,000 people who have donated to us. We're so proud of that. And not only that, we raised the largest dollar amount of $9.1 million, but it was reported in one of the tabloids, We have the most diverse donor base than any other candidate. We have Russian speaking, African American, Caribbean, people from Nepal, from Pakistan, from the Sephardic Jewish community, all over, African American, Caribbean. I am the United Nations candidate, and I'm excited about that.
Amazing. And that's because you're a true New Yorker, and us true New Yorkers, we recognize that. So I'm going to bring up my dear friend, Sarita Wright, who is the co-founder of Estro Haze, a cannabis media platform by and for multicultural women. She's going to ask you a question. And, you know, if you want to ask any of my guests questions, please feel free to do so as well. I'm going to hand it off to Sarita.
Hey, Sarita, how are you?
I am well, thank you. How are you today?
Excellent, excellent.
That was a really awesome story that you just told. I was very inspired, and I'm looking forward to growing cannabis this very soon as well. So you inspired me to take that leap. But Mr. Borough President, I am a member of the Rent is Too Damn High party. So how will you make New York City housing more affordable and equitable?
So true, and you're right, Sarita. It is too high. It's too high for low income and middle income New Yorkers. And so there's several things we must do. Number one, we must save public housing. That's NYCHA. We must stabilize public housing, and we can do that by not changing and making it not public. Public housing should remain public, but we could do something called selling the air rights. Those are the rights of the air on top of the buildings. We can sell them. The regional planning authority stated that we can get anywhere from $4 to $8 billion. This way we can go right into NYCHA and do some of the emergency repairs while we're fighting to get the money from the federal government. We can't just say we're waiting for the federal government. As my mother used to say, boy, you better have a plan A and plan B, and plan B is within our span of control. Second, we need to rethink housing in the city. We need to be open to micro units, the smaller units, smaller apartment sizes. My first apartment was a kitchenette. I loved it. It wasn't huge, but it gave me the dignity I needed. We need to develop in affluent areas. Right now, we are only upzoning in poorer communities, moving affluent New Yorkers there, displacing longtime tenants. Let's upzone in affluent area, move poorer people in those areas so they can have access to transportation, access to healthy food, access to good schools. We can start integrating our schools instead of the segregated school system that we have now. Then we should be open to basement apartments. We should be open to allow seniors who have open bedrooms that want to roommate with other seniors, allow them an opportunity to do so. Apartment shares. So we need to become more creative in apartments. We should look at many of the hotels in the outer boroughs that are empty right now. Let's convert them into kitchenettes, into studios. We have to redefine what living is like in the city, and in the process, it will become more affordable.
Thank you. Love that.
Thank you. And don't forget edibles. Don't only grow them. You can get some good edible products as well.
Don't you get me started now.
That's amazing. You better stop it. We're going to have too much fun over here. Thank you, Sarita. I'm going to bring up my next guest. And first of all, I'll just mention real quick, I read just yesterday the 25 points to make New York more equitable that Mr. Adams and his team put out. I thought it was very progressive, very creative, and it was refreshing to see people are actually thinking about solving real problems, not just doing the same old. So I'll make sure to send everyone that link so they could check that out. And in the meantime, I'm going to bring up my buddy Stephen Fan, who's co-founder of Comeback Daily, a retailer of fine CBD products. And Stephen, he represents the small business owners in New York, and he's got a question for you. Stephen, are you there?
Hi, Mr. Borough President. Can you guys see me? Oh, no, you can't see me.
We can't
We
see
can
you.
hear you, Stephen. We can hear you.
Oh, I don't know what happened in the video, but
It's all good.
oh, here you go. Hi, Mr. Borough President.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's very, very nice to have a chance to speak with you. You know, we, like Mike said, we're a CBD store here in New York, and we, you know, expanded to 3 stores. Prior to the pandemic, we were really heavily involved in the community. And, you know, with the pandemic, there's been a lot of, you know, iconic businesses that have shut down, as well as small businesses that have just struggled to stay alive. You know, we had to close 2 of our shops, and we're now standing with 1. And, you know, we are hanging in there, and we're going to make it through this because we're persistent. But I'm interested to know what your plans are to help small businesses and the businesses affected by the pandemic.
Yes, no, so important. And, you know, what we have to do is zero in on small businesses. As you know, as a small business owner, the first rounds of stimulus dollars did not come down to you. Big banks looked after their buddies and their partners, and it went to those large corporations who were not really in need like small businesses. A lot of people don't know that 51% of our employees come from small businesses. So we need to zero in on our small businesses and give them the support. Here are some of the areas I believe we can give supports, and I want to hear from our small businesses to also tell us some ideas. For one, we need to give a real relief in rent payments that they're making, particularly those when we look at some of the stimulus dollars that are coming to the city. Let's pay your landlords and give you the opportunity to have rent forgiveness, put you back whole so that you can sort of start anew. We were all traumatized by it. Let's not hurt those small landlords by saying we're going to ignore your need to pay your mortgage and your utility bills. Let's balance it out. Let's pay those businesses that can show real hardship. Let's pick up those rents for them to get them stabilized. Second, let's use our Chamber of Commerce. I want you just to be selling your cannabis. Let my Chamber of Commerce do your backroom work, your accountant, your compliance, all of documents that you have to fill out with the city. I believe that instead of trying to take away the hours that you're spending to do all of the administrative tasks, why don't we allow our Chamber of Commerce can do that for the businesses that want it, and you can just focus on running your business. Second, our agencies in New York City, talking about living is expensive, doing the business is too expensive. We're too bureaucratic, too expensive, and we get in the way too much. Eric Adams is mayor. My agencies are going to be functioning on how do I keep you in business, not how do I make it too bureaucratic and difficult for you to go a business. One platform, you go into one agency, fill out one form, and all the agencies involved will do their work to ensure that you can actually get your business up and running. I am not going to have you go from agency to agency to agency. No, you go to one portal, put the basic information in, and all the agencies utilize the information from that portal to get you up and running as a business. We have to streamline businesses. Let's end the renewal fees. Let's end the startup fees. Those who are in location where there's a triple net lease, let's excuse those triple net leases to allow people to just get back under their feet under them, so we can get our business back up and running again, so you can open, you can hire, and you can expand.
Yeah, that's actually really amazing to hear, Borough President. You know, that's one of, I know you spoke earlier about giving the landlords relief. You know, all these stimulus reliefs, they helped people at home, they helped people with jobs. And yeah, I know the landlords are making money, you know, for having a space, but they also have a mortgage they owe to the bank, right? And a lot of the issues stem from the landlords basically telling us, like, you know, you guys got relief, you got money in the bank, we didn't get anything, they didn't care about us, and we can't evict the people who aren't paying us, so we can't do much for you because we're in the same boat as you. And so it's really, really great to hear. As a small business owner myself, you know, only 2 years in business, that's really awesome to hear.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Borough President.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, I'm gonna bring up who's next on my list? I've got my dear friend Vickiana Clement from Medgar Evers College. She's executive director of the Cannabis Education Task Force. Oops, I got the wrong person up here. Pardon me.
I'm trying to navigate.
Technical difficulty.
It's all good. I'm moving as the sun settles.
Nice. Oops, I messed it up twice now. What's going on with me? All right. Third time's the charm. There we go. Here's Vicky.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Borough President. How are you?
Quite well, Vicky. How are you doing?
Good. I'm the executive director for Medgar Evers Cannabis Educational Task Force. We have taken on an extreme great charge to be the first school, not only in New York City, but as I've looked at other schools, to provide a heavily deconstructed program this coming fall to our students. And so my question to you is, cannabis legalization is going to provide thousands of new jobs for New Yorkers. What do you think of a CUNY, especially a predominantly Black institution like ours, Medgar Evers College, dedicating significant resources to preparing students for careers in cannabis? And also, how will you make sure that our city's institutions are more inclusive and supportive of Black and Brown people creating wealth?
Thank you. So important. First of all, I love that idea. And I'm going to put my information in the chat. I would love for you to call me. I would love for us to roll that out. That's a brilliant idea. We cannot, I don't want us simply to smoke the product. We must not allow this opportunity to go up in smoke. And I think that this is a great way to set the foundation in place now. And what you are suggesting is brilliant. And so I want to speak with you. Let's figure out how to craft a policy and make sure we start building out the pipeline to employment. I think this bill, New York City still has an opportunity to see how they're going to implement this bill. The state has given the authority. Now New York City needs to have the opportunity to do so. So there's several things I want to see. I want to see credit scores made whole for those people who were arrested and had their lives destroyed. Let's clean their credit scores. Let's get them back on solid footing. I would like to see licenses going to a pool of Black and Brown people who were disproportionately targeted because of the use of marijuana. There were police practices where they were telling Black and Brown people, empty your pockets. Then once you empty your pocket and there's a joint inside there, you were charged with public view and you were arrested. We need to expunge all those records. We need to make sure that those people who were targeted are made whole. When we look at putting a pool of money together for job training, financial literacy services, we have to make people whole. We can't say, oops, we made a mistake, let's just move forward. No, we need to go back and regain the lives of people who were lost. And then, as you just stated, which is, I think is just amazing, we need to build out a real curriculum in CUNY of showing this massive industry that's about to happen. How do you become an entrepreneur? How do you grow it? How do you open your shop? All the things that are needed so people can leave Medgar Evers College or any other institution and go into the industry. I believe Medgar should become a center of how to build out this industry in a real way. And we should put money into Medgar to build out the infrastructure to make that happen. So I think it's a brilliant idea. And yes, CUNY is the stepping stone. I'm a CUNY grad, a twofer. I went to New York City College of Technology, and I graduated also from John Jay College. I don't know where I would be without CUNY, not only for what I learned academically, but the people I've met. You go to CUNY and you see the diversity of this city. You see what makes us great, the cross-pollination of ideas, the cross-pollination of cultures. You really become who you ought to be by being a CUNY student. And we need to really have a pathway to really have economic stability. out of the CUNY system. I believe CUNY needs to be free, and I would fight like heck to put the system back to a place where it's free. But there's something else we need to do on CUNY campuses. We should have washers and dryers. We should have food pantries. We should have access to toiletries. We should allow people to use the showers during non-school hours, because many people are not receiving their education because of just those basic things: food insecurity, hygiene issues, unable to sit inside a classroom. We need to remove the barriers of CUNY, not only bringing down the cost, but bringing down those unknown costs that's preventing education.
Thank you, Mr. Borough President, or should I say, Mr. Mayor? I mean, wish. And I will see you soon.
Yes, so, but please, I want to call you. I'm looking for the chat. I'm going to put my number in the chat. Can you make sure she gets my number, please?
I'll put you guys in touch. Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, great idea. I want to roll that out.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Vicky. All right. Are we having fun yet, Mr. Borough President? Are you having a good time with the cannabis community today?
Too much fun. You know that?
Awesome. All right. I'm going to bring up my next guest, Ms. Chirali Patel. She's an attorney and the founder of Blaze Responsibly was recently named Chief Compliance Officer of Digital Venture Partners. Chirali, welcome. Good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Borough President. Nice to meet you. And
pleasure.
Happy to say you have a supporter across the river, so I'll be doing my part here. My question for you is, I wanted to know how will citywide and local public health programs, mental health services, and other healthcare policies evolve to include cannabis as a tool for healing instead of being viewed as something dangerous and even borderline evil? Thank you.
My first introduction to the healing aspect of cannabis came from Montel Williams. I was a state senator. He was dealing with MS, and the only way he was able to really handle the side effects of MS was from cannabis. And we sat down and had a long conversation, and I was able to bring him to my colleagues and show the power of cannabis. So what we must do, we must engage in a real educational plan. Because when something is stigmatized, people no longer hear of the benefits, they only hear of how it was stigmatized. And we should bring in our clergy, allow them to understand what cannabis is and the healing process of it, the pain release aspect of it. When I hear people who are dealing with the side effects of cancer treatment, and they're able to deal with the nausea, deal with the pain, deal with the sickness that's coming from the feelings of motion sickness. So there's so many benefits. So there must be a series of conversations to really destigmatize cannabis. So when a young person or a husband or wife come home to their parents or to their loved ones and share that I'm using cannabis, they won't automatically feel as though, oh my God, you're a drug user. They'll understand the benefits of it. I had a good friend who I lost to breast cancer. And during those moments, she was ill all the time. And I tried to convince her to use cannabis, but she felt as though that she was violating her religious principles by doing so. And I watched her suffer in pain because of that. So we need to destigmatize cannabis and have open conversations about it, and have people understand that this is a plant where there's some strong healing processes to it. And I want to be part of that conversation, and folks like yourselves could really help move this conversation forward.
Thank you, Mr. Borough President. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sorry about your friend. I too have lost loved ones who've benefited from this plant, so I appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Chirali. And Mr. Borough President, if you need help with anti-cannabis stigma education, I know a guy who has some experience in that field.
Love it, love it, love it.
So let me bring up my next guest. Let's see. I think I'm going to bring up Varghese. Varghese, I hope, let's see, I just lost him. There we go. Varghese Chaco is the founding partner and president of NYC Nightlife United. It's a nonprofit that was formed to help provide emergency funds for venues and cultural centers that were impacted by COVID-19. Varghese, if you're with us, please say hello and ask Mr. Borough President. I just like saying that. It's fun to say. I gotta be honest. There we go.
There we go. Thank you, Mike, and Mr. Borough President, for having me. Appreciate you sharing your platform. The organization, as a small business owner, we represent both the business owners as well as workers. I think in the nightlife industry, a lot of the workers are independent contractors. So obviously the safety net is non-existent or smaller than it is for, W-2 full-time employees. So I'm curious, how you think we can reopen the nightlife industry safely and effectively, which is obviously critical at this juncture. But when we're how we do that, it's important that we ensure fairness and stability for these underrepresented workers. So I'd be curious to understand how specifically with this, our industry, which has been so impacted and is primarily made of, hospitality workers and, those independent contractors, if you will. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the industry specifically and how we really look after its workers.
Thank you so much. And a couple of things. As I stated, when people think about restaurants and bars and establishments like that in our nightlife industry, multi-billion-dollar industry, they think it's for the affluent, and they're wrong. I was a dishwasher. I don't know what I would have done if I did not have that job. If you go into these establishments, you're going to find that there are many immigrants, many individuals who are basically trying to eke out a living and become part of middle-class America, dishwashers, busboys and girls, waiters, cooks, all the people who are part of the industry. So really, I think our restaurants, our bars and restaurants, they're the bellwether for the entire city. If they're not doing well, it's an indicator that the city is not doing well. And they're part of the ecosystem, financial ecosystem of the city. And it's so important. Here in Brooklyn, I started something called Brooklyn restaurant, bars and restaurants here in Brooklyn. And I have been a leading voice and advocate for my nightlife industry. This is the city that never sleeps. We're not even trying to take a nap. And I don't know why people are trying to destroy this important industry. And if we don't get it back up and running, we're not going to be the New York that we expected to bring in a multi-billion-dollar industry of tourism, our theater district, the outer boroughs, particularly here in Brooklyn. Con Edison stated that at 7 p.m., electricity goes down across the city and it increases in Brooklyn because of our amazing nightlife in Brooklyn. So there's a couple of things we need to do. First thing we need to do is we need to tell governmental agencies, you need to stop hurting our nightlife industry and helping our nightlife industry. We need to expedite the opening of the bars and restaurants. Many of my friends own restaurants. They're paying $15,000, $20,000 a month in leasing costs, yet they can't get their establishments open. That makes no sense. We need to stop that from happening. A centralized platform to make sure they go to one location, get the FDNY sprinkler inspections, get all the inspections from the Department of Buildings, and we need to coordinate what we're doing to get our establishments up and running. Number two, as I stated, we need to help with the backroom dealings. Nothing could be more beneficial than taking that load off the plate. If you are a baker or a bar, serve your drinks, make your pastries. Don't get tied up in the bureaucracy of government. Those hours are taking you away from running your business. And number three, we can't do taxation with citation. Going inside these establishments, giving $2,000, $3,000 fines, in some cases almost $60,000 fines, you're destroying the businesses. And we need to stop that. I believe we need to go into a 3 color coded system. That's a warning system. If it's not life-threatening, give a person 30 days to improve it. If it's something that should be improved, it could become life-threatening, give them 2 weeks to improve, to correct the condition. And if it's something that's extremely dangerous and life-threatening, do it within 24 to 48 hours. But you first come to improve and give a warning. Don't come to be destructive and hurt the business. We used to be the Empire State. You cross the George Washington Bridge and it says, welcome to the Empire State. We've become a place where we destroy empires and not build empires. I want to go back to the building of empires, and our nightlife establishments are places that we can do that. Lastly, we prepared and served over 200 million meals during COVID-19. Those meals should have been supplied by our small restaurants. We should have gone to our small restaurants and said, listen, we need you to do 1,000 meals a day. Here's your catchment areas. Here's the grab and goes. Here are your senior centers. This way, we would have been able to keep people in place instead of going to those large food corporations that are not on the ground with the small businesses. I want to do that. Give you access to capital. Make sure we do a local banking network using CDFIs so that you can actually navigate the PPP dollars that come into the city. It's really what I'm saying in essence, give you the help you need to stay open, not to get in your way to see you close.
I appreciate that. The amount of regulation for these businesses is pretty heavy. So I appreciate looking at streamlining it. So thank you for your thoughts, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Varghese. So I had one more guest, but she is tied up in a board meeting. So I'm going to ask a question on her behalf, which is about safety. There's been some increase in crime over the last few months in the city. In particular, there's been attacks on Asian New Yorkers. And I just wanted to hear a little from you about how we can make New York safe and make New Yorkers feel safe and protect our businesses from crimes as well.
So true. And I say this over and over, and I'm going to continue to say it. The prerequisite to prosperity is public safety. We must be safe as a city. And I policed in this city during the mid 80s and early 90s. We had 2,000 homicides a year, 98,000 robberies, and almost an equivalent amount of felonious assaults. People were afraid. Every car had a no radio sign. We used to have something called a Benzie box where you'll take your radio out and carry it. Everywhere you looked, people did not believe they were safe. It impacted businesses. I believe when we turned around crime in the city, it became an economic stimulus package because businesses opened, we developed, companies came to the city. I don't want a city that's unsafe. Now, I say that, I also don't want a police department that's heavy-handed. I fought against those heavy-handed tactics. We could have police reform and we could have public safety. They go together. We don't have to trade them off one or the other. So it's imperative that, number one, we get gun violence under control. That is our real problem in the city. There are too many guns on our street. I believe that we have to reinstitute the anti-crime unit, the plainclothes unit, turn them into an anti-gun unit, and let's zero in on the gun violence. Let's also at the same time talk to gang members, because much of the gun violence you're seeing and the street crime is coming from gang behavior. That young 5-year-old girl who was grazed with a bullet yesterday, it was due to a gang-related shootout. So let's go in, let's sit down. I have been sitting down with gang leaders and telling them it's time to end this beef. It's time to stop this violence, and let's give them opportunities to use that energy to be very productive. Then let's invest in the crisis management teams. These are on the ground, ex-gang members, people who were involved in crimes at one time. Now they've turned their lives around. Let's engage them to stop the retaliatory shootings. Let's support them. Let's give them the resources to talk people out of the violence that we're seeing. Let me tell you, the best public safety initiative is a job. We need to start employing people and giving them the training and connecting what jobs are available in the city and the skill sets that are needed, and using a centralized database, one application process that we can pair those who are looking for employees with those employers who are in need. And then we need to stop guns from coming in our city. There are no gun manufacturing plants in Brownsville, in the South Bronx, in South Jamaica, and East New York. Why are these guns on our streets? I feel we need to be utilizing our port authorities to do spot checks like we do in the subway system now. New Yorkers, at any time, you could have your bags checked to see if it's a bomb or not. We need to be doing that with people who visit our city to send a message. You're not just going to feel comfortable going up I-95, bringing in guns into the city and endangering the lives of our citizens. And then the federal government must do their job. We have to have stronger gun laws and prevent some of the shootings we're seeing in the inner city. So I am with that question. Our city must be safe. I don't want my son growing up in a city that I grew up in, where crimes were carried out on innocent people every day in the city and just traumatizing families for so many years. We have to do a better job. And I am looking forward to doing that as the mayor of this city.
Excellent, thank you. And I see we're running low on time here, so I'm gonna actually invite the audience to type in some questions into the Q&A. This is your moment, this is your chance. And for everyone else, you know, I put the link to make a contribution to the campaign into the chat, so don't be shy, click that link, it's quite easy. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask you if there's anything that we didn't cover that you'd love to mention or speak on. If not, I'll ask you a simple question, but I wanted to turn it over to you.
You covered a lot, and I appreciate your interaction and your audience. You know, just the energy, and you have an amazing group of people out there in the cannabis atmosphere. And I would love just to hear people, their thoughts, if they go to my website and send over some of their ideas on what we can be doing or what we should be doing around the cannabis space, because this is new to us all and we want to get it right. And I just thought of the suggestion from Medgar Evers College of, you know, building out a real training system or a real educational system that is powerful. I think we can do it also as certifications. People should not only have to go through a 4-year program, we should have a real initiative on what jobs are available in the cannabis space. So I'm excited about this new industry that is opening in New York City, and we look forward to encouraging people on how to take advantage of it.
Absolutely, that's wonderful. So, Mr. Borough President, I'm going to thank you again for spending some time with us today. And before I let you go, I'm going to ask you, what makes you hopeful about New York and our future?
I think about the Brooklynite, the owner of the company Snapple. And I want to borrow his line. I'm hopeful for this city because we're made up of the best stuff on earth. We're New Yorkers. We're gritty, we're tough, we have a little edge to us. Many of us are blue collar workers. We know what it is to grind and push forward. And that's who I am. You know, people look at me sometimes and they say, you know, the guy has a little edge to him. Yes, that's what a New Yorker is. We're an edge to us. You pass by us and you splash us with water in your car, we're not afraid to give you the finger. You know, if you feel you're going to be disrespectful to us, we're going to let you know about it. We don't care where we are on the globe. That is what it is to be a New Yorker. But we are proud to be New Yorkers. We are proud to know that we can walk into a store or a restaurant have a German cook make us a Chinese dish that he learned from his Italian girlfriend while he was sitting in a Japanese restaurant. We have our own fusion. That's what New York is about, this different energy, different excitement, and I am glad as hell that I'm a part of it.
I love that. I hear that, and I'm so grateful that someone like you is stepping up to lead this great city. And like I said, we need a true New Yorker for this job. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any doubts about it, that this man is a true New Yorker, then I have to question whether you are one. So, Mr. Borough President, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And I look forward to congratulating you when you're the mayor of New York City. So
Thank you.
Have a
Take
great
care.
evening.